The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the snow. Jonathan Pierce gripped the steering wheel of his black Range Rover, peering through the white chaos that had transformed the highway into a treacherous guessing game. The weather report had promised light flurries. This was not light flurries. This was nature's rage, and he was caught in the middle of it. He should have stayed at the office. He should have accepted his business partner's invitation to spend Christmas Eve at his family gathering. Instead, Jonathan had insisted on driving back to his empty mansion, where silence waited like an old friend he'd grown too comfortable with. At 42, Jonathan had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. His company, Pierce Technologies, had made him a billionaire before 40. His house had 12 bedrooms and no one to fill them. His calendar had meetings with hundreds of people who wanted his money, his time, his signature, but no one who wanted just him. The loneliness had started feeling normal. That scared him more than he cared to admit. The snow came down harder. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Jonathan slowed to a crawl, squinting through the windshield. His headlights barely penetrated the white curtain ahead. He was looking for the exit to Riverside Road, but every landmark had vanished under the blizzard's assault. Then he saw them. At first, he thought they were bags of trash someone had abandoned beside the old gas station. The station had been closed for years, a relic of a bypass that had rerouted traffic 5 miles east. But as his headlights swept across the scene, the trash bags moved. They were children. 3 small figures huddled together against the building's wall, barely sheltered by a broken awning that did nothing to protect them from the wind. Snow had piled around them, nearly burying their small forms. Jonathan's heart stopped. He slammed on the brakes, and the Range Rover skidded slightly before coming to a halt. He threw the vehicle into park and burst out into the storm, not bothering with his coat. The cold hit him like a physical blow, but he barely noticed. "Hey, kids." His voice barely carried over the wind. They didn't move. Terror gripped his chest. Was he too late? He ran toward them, his expensive leather shoes slipping on the ice. As he got closer, he could make out details that made his stomach twist. The oldest was a girl, maybe 12, wearing a thin purple jacket that might have fit her years ago. Her arms were wrapped around 2 smaller children, a boy and a tiny girl, trying to shield them with her own body. "Please." The word was so quiet he almost missed it. "Please don't leave us like everyone else did." The girl's eyes met his. They were brown, deep and old, with suffering no child should know. Her lips were blue. Her whole body shook with cold, but she held on to the other children with fierce determination. "I'm not leaving you." Jonathan dropped to his knees beside them, ignoring the snow soaking through his pants. "I'm getting you out of here. Right now." "Are you real?" The girl's voice cracked. "Sometimes I see things that aren't real anymore." "I'm real." He reached for the smallest child, the little girl who looked about 5. She was unconscious. Panic surged through him. "What's her name?" "Brianna. She stopped talking yesterday." The older girl's teeth chattered. "Kevin, my brother, he's 8. I'm Natalie." Kevin's eyes were half closed. He was conscious but barely. Both younger children were dangerously hypothermic. "Natalie, I need you to be strong a little longer. Can you walk to my car?" Jonathan scooped Brianna into his arms. She was terrifyingly light. "I think so." But when Natalie tried to stand, her legs buckled. She'd given everything she had to keep her siblings warm. There was nothing left. Jonathan made a decision. "Stay right here. Do not move. I'll be back in 30 seconds. He ran to the Range Rover, wrenching open the back door. He laid Brianna on the seat, turned the heat to maximum, and grabbed every blanket from the emergency kit he kept in the trunk. His hands shook, and not from the cold. He ran back. Kevin had slumped against Natalie, and she was struggling to keep him upright while staying conscious herself. "Kevin, buddy, I'm going to carry you. It's going to be okay." Jonathan lifted the boy, who was heavier than Brianna but still far too light for an 8-year-old. He got Kevin to the car and placed him beside his sister. When he returned for Natalie, she was trying to crawl toward the car. "I've got you." He lifted her easily. She weighed nothing. How long had they been out here? How long since they'd eaten? "You came back," Natalie whispered as he carried her. "I promised I would. People break promises." Jonathan placed her in the car between her siblings and wrapped all 3 children in blankets. Their skin was ice cold. Brianna's lips were gray. This was bad. This was really bad. He jumped into the driver's seat and pulled out his phone. His fingers fumbled with the screen. "What are you doing?" Natalie's voice was faint. "Calling an ambulance." "No hospitals." Fear sharpened her tone. "They'll separate us. They always separate us." "Natalie, your sister needs medical help." You promised. Tears ran down her cheeks. You said you wouldn't leave us. Hospitals mean foster care. Foster care means different homes. We stay together. We have to stay together. Jonathan looked at her in the rearview mirror. This girl had been protecting her siblings in a blizzard with nothing but her own body heat. She'd been willing to die to keep them together. How could he destroy that? My house is 15 minutes away. I have a doctor friend who makes house calls. It was a gamble. Dr. Rachel Morgan owed him a favor and she lived close. He can check them there. But Natalie, if they need a hospital, they're going to a hospital. Do you understand? She nodded, relief flooding her face. Thank you. Jonathan drove faster than he should have, but the storm had cleared the roads. He called Rachel, who answered on the second ring. Jonathan? It's Christmas Eve. This better be important. I need you at my house. Now. 3 children, severe hypothermia, possible malnutrition, maybe frostbite. I'm 20 minutes out. What? How did you? Rachel's tone changed instantly. I'm on my way. Keep them warm. Don't warm them too fast. Are they conscious? 2 are. Barely. The little one isn't. Keep her warm. Talk to her even if she can't respond. I'll be there before you arrive. Jonathan ended the call and glanced in the mirror again. Natalie was holding both her siblings, whispering to them. He caught fragments. It's okay. We're safe now. Stay with me. Please stay with me. What happened to you? Jonathan asked gently. Where are your parents? Dead. Gone. Nobody. Natalie's voice was flat. The system lost our paperwork. We fell through. Been hiding for 2 months. The building we stayed in got condemned last week. Nowhere else to go. 2 months. 2 months of 3 children alone and no one noticed. No one cared. The system had failed them completely. You're not hiding anymore. Jonathan's voice was firm. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Any of you. Why? Natalie's question was simple but heavy. You don't know us. Because it's the right thing to do. Because you're children and you deserve better. Because... He paused. Because everyone deserves someone who won't leave them behind. The mansion's gates appeared through the snow. Jonathan had never been so grateful to see home. The lights were on. Rachel's car was already in the driveway. As he pulled up, Rachel burst out the front door, medical bag in hand. Mrs. Palmer, his housekeeper, was right behind her with armfuls of towels. Get them inside. Rachel shouted over the wind. Jonathan carried Brianna first. Her small body was limp in his arms. Rachel took her immediately, her expression grave. Mrs. Palmer, warm water, not hot. And soup, something light. Crackers if you have them. Rachel was already checking Brianna's pulse. Jonathan went back for Kevin, then Natalie. By the time all 3 children were inside his living room, Rachel had transformed the space into a makeshift emergency room. She worked quickly, efficiently, checking vitals and temperatures. They're going to be okay, Rachel said finally, and Jonathan felt something unclench in his chest. But it was close. Another hour and we'd be having a very different conversation. Natalie's the strongest, kept them alive with her body heat. Kevin's in better shape than Brianna. The little one. Rachel's expression softened. She's dangerously dehydrated and her core temperature is too low. I'm starting in 4. Watch her tonight. If she doesn't improve by morning, hospital. Understood. Mrs. Palmer returned with soup and warm water. Rachel supervised as they slowly warmed the children, bringing their body temperatures up gradually. Natalie refused food until Kevin and Brianna ate first. When Mrs. Palmer placed a bowl of soup in her hands, Natalie stared at it like she'd forgotten what food looked like. It's okay, sweetheart. Mrs. Palmer's voice was gentle. There's plenty more. The first spoonful made Natalie close her eyes. The second made her cry. Jonathan sat on the floor beside her. When did you last eat? 3 days. Maybe 4. Lost track. She took another spoonful. Found half a sandwich in a dumpster on Tuesday. Gave most of it to Kevin and Brianna. Rage and grief warred in Jonathan's chest. This brave, selfless child had been starving to keep her siblings alive, and the world had turned its back. That's over now, he said firmly. You're safe here. All 3 of you. For how long? Natalie's eyes met his. Until you call social services? Until they split us up? I'm not calling anyone tonight. Tonight you rest. Tomorrow we figure things out. But I promise you this, Natalie. I will not let them separate you. I don't know how yet, but I won't. Why would you do that for us? Jonathan looked at the 3 children in his living room, surrounded by blankets and warmth. Finally safe after who knew how long fighting just to survive. He thought about his empty house, his empty life, the loneliness he'd accepted as normal. Because maybe you're saving me as much as I'm saving you. Natalie studied his face for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Okay, I'll trust you. But if you break that promise? Her voice dropped. I'll find a way to protect them. I always do. You won't have to. Jonathan met her eyes. I keep my promises. As Rachel continued monitoring the children and Mrs. Palmer prepared rooms upstairs, Jonathan sat with them. Kevin fell asleep first, exhausted. Brianna's eyes fluttered open briefly, and she looked around in confusion before Natalie soothed her back to sleep. Outside the blizzard raged on. Inside, 3 children who'd been forgotten by the world breathed easier, warmer, safer. And Jonathan Pierce, who'd spent years believing he didn't need anyone, realized his life had just changed forever. He didn't know how he was going to keep his promise to Natalie. He didn't know how he'd navigate the legal system, or what battles lay ahead. But he knew with absolute certainty that he would not fail these children. Not tonight. Not ever. Morning sunlight filtered through the windows, making the previous night feel like a fever dream. Jonathan hadn't slept. He'd spent the night alternating between checking on the children and researching emergency custody laws on his laptop. Rachel had stayed until 4 in the morning monitoring Brianna's vitals. Before she left, she'd pulled Jonathan aside. That little girl almost died. Another few hours in that cold. She shook her head. Someone needs to be held accountable. The system failed these kids catastrophically. I know. But first, I need to make sure they're protected. Now, watching the sunrise paint his living room in shades of gold and pink, Jonathan heard stirring from the guest bedroom where Mrs. Palmer had set up temporary beds. He stood and walked quietly down the hall. Natalie was awake, sitting up with her back against the headboard. She watched him with wary eyes as he entered. Good morning. How are you feeling? Better? Her voice was hoarse. Where are we exactly? My home. About 30 miles from where I found you. Jonathan sat in the chair by the door, keeping his distance. You're in a guest room. Your siblings are right here with you. Mrs. Palmer, the woman who helped last night, lives in the West Wing. Dr. Morgan checked on Brianna an hour ago. Her temperature is almost normal. Natalie's shoulders relaxed slightly. You really didn't call anyone? Not yet. But Natalie, we need to talk about what happens next. Fear flashed across her face. You said you wouldn't separate us. And I meant it. But I need to understand your situation fully. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Natalie was quiet for a long moment, stroking Brianna's hair as the little girl slept. Finally she began. Mom died 6 months ago. Cancer. She fought it for 2 years, but... Her voice cracked. Dad left when I was 7. Just walked out one day and never came back. Mom did her best alone. When she got sick, she tried to set things up. Made arrangements with social services, filled out paperwork. But she died faster than anyone expected. And the system lost you? We had a caseworker. Ms. Rodriguez. She was nice. Placed us in a foster home, the Johnsons. But Mrs. Johnson had a heart attack 3 weeks later. We got moved. Then moved again. The third home was... Natalie's jaw tightened. Not good. I reported them. We got pulled out and that's when everything fell apart. What do you mean? Our file got transferred to a different office. New caseworker who was handling like 50 kids. She met us once, said she'd be back to check on us at the temporary shelter. Never came. We waited 3 weeks. The shelter got overcrowded. They told us we'd be moved to different facilities. Kevin to a boys' group home 2 hours north, me and Brianna somewhere else. Jonathan's hands clenched. They were going to split you up. I couldn't let that happen. Mom's last words to me were, take care of them. So I did. We left. Found an abandoned building. I stole food when I could. Collected bottles for money. Kept us hidden. Pride mixed with shame in her voice. I know it was wrong. But keeping us together was more important. It wasn't wrong. You did what you had to do. Jonathan's voice was gentle. Natalie, you're 12 years old. None of this should have been your responsibility. 13 next month. And who else was going to do it? Her eyes flashed. The system forgot us. Our file probably got lost in some database. Easy to overlook when you're dealing with hundreds of kids. What about other family? Grandparents? Aunts or uncles? Mom was an only child. Her parents died before I was born. Dad's family? Natalie's expression hardened. There's Uncle Gerald. Dad's brother. He came around once when Mom was sick, asking about money and life insurance. Made Mom cry. We haven't seen him since the funeral. He didn't even help with the burial costs. Jonathan filed that information away. Do you have any paperwork? Birth certificates? Anything? In my backpack. If it's still at the gas station. Natalie looked panicked. That bag has everything. Mom's photos, our documents, the little bit of money I'd saved. I'll send someone to get it today. Jonathan pulled out his phone and sent a text to his assistant. Now here's what I'm thinking. I have lawyers who specialize in family law. The best in the state. I want them to file for emergency custody on your behalf. That keeps you three together while we sort out the legal situation. You do that. Disbelief colored her voice. You don't even know us. I know enough. You're three children who've been failed by every system designed to protect you. Someone needs to step up. I can and I will. Natalie studied him. What do you get out of this? The question was blunt, adult. Jonathan recognized it for what it was. This girl had learned not to trust easy kindness. Honestly, I get to do something that matters. I've spent 20 years building a company, making money, and at the end of the day I go home to an empty house. I have everything and nothing. Maybe this is the universe telling me I can do better. He met her eyes. Or maybe I'm just a man who can't drive past 3 kids freezing in a blizzard. Does the reason matter? I guess not. She paused. What if your lawyers can't help? What if they make us go back into the system? Then I'll hire more lawyers. And if that doesn't work, I'll find another way. Natalie, I'm not walking away from this. From you. Kevin stirred in his bed, rolling over. His eyes opened and he looked around in confusion. When he saw Jonathan, fear crossed his face. It's okay, Kev. Natalie's voice softened. This is Jonathan. He helped us last night. Remember? Kevin sat up slowly. Is this your house? It is. Are you hungry? The boy nodded. Natalie started to get up, but Jonathan gestured for her to stay. Rest. I'll bring breakfast up. Any allergies I should know about? No. We're not picky. Natalie's lip quirked. Can't afford to be. Jonathan found Mrs. Palmer already in the kitchen, preparing a feast. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, fruit, toast. Enough food for 10 people. I didn't know what they'd like, she said, wiping her eyes. Those poor babies. I kept thinking about them all night. You have a good heart, Margaret. So do you, sir. Don't think I haven't noticed how this house has felt like a mausoleum since your sister passed. Maybe these children are exactly what you need. Jonathan had never articulated it, but Mrs. Palmer was right. His younger sister, Amy, had died 3 years ago in a car accident. After that, he'd shut down emotionally, throwing himself into work. The house had become a monument to loss rather than a home. He carried a tray upstairs. Kevin's eyes went wide at the sight of food. Brianna had woken up and was clinging to Natalie, silent and watchful. Brianna, this is Jonathan, Natalie explained gently. He found us in the snow. He's helping us. It's okay. The little girl studied him with solemn brown eyes but said nothing. They ate slowly at first, then with increasing hunger. Jonathan watched, making mental notes. Kevin was left-handed. Natalie cut Brianna's food into tiny pieces. The little girl ate but never made a sound. Has she always been quiet? Jonathan asked. No. She talked all the time before Mom died. Sang constantly, made up stories, drove us crazy. Natalie's voice broke. After Mom, she got quieter. Then we ended up on the street and she just stopped. It's been 4 days since I heard her voice. We'll get her help. Dr. Morgan knows child psychologists. We can't afford that. I can. Jonathan's tone left no room for argument. Let me be clear about something. While you're here, you don't worry about money. You need food, clothes, medical care, therapy, education. Whatever it takes. That's not negotiable. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. Why are you being so nice to us? Because you deserve it. Because every child deserves safety and kindness. And because I have the means to help, which makes it my responsibility. A chime from Jonathan's phone interrupted them. His assistant had found the backpack and was on his way. Your things are coming. In the meantime, I think we should get you all proper clothes that fit. He gestured at their worn too small outfits. There's a children's store in town. We could go this morning. Could we really? Kevin's face lit up. I haven't had new clothes in forever. Then let's fix that. But first, showers. Mrs. Palmer set out fresh towels in the bathroom. Take your time. Get warm. There's no rush. Over the next few hours, the house transformed. Jonathan heard laughter from the bathroom as the children discovered the luxury of endless hot water. Mrs. Palmer found some oversized sweaters and sweatpants for them to wear temporarily. When they emerged, clean and warm, Kevin couldn't stop grinning. Even Brianna looked less frightened. The shopping trip was a revelation. Jonathan had never taken children shopping before. Kevin wanted to look at everything, touching fabrics and examining shoes with wonder. Natalie tried to choose the cheapest items until Jonathan gently steered her toward better quality options. Get what you like, not what you think you should settle for. Brianna stayed close to Natalie but pointed shyly at a blue dress with butterflies. Natalie picked it up, checking the price tag. It's too much. It's perfect for her. Jonathan took the dress. What else do you need? By the time they finished, they'd filled 3 shopping carts. Clothes, shoes, pajamas, winter coats that actually fit. Jonathan added books, puzzles, and art supplies. At the register, Natalie looked anxious. This is too much. We can't accept all this. You're not accepting. I'm giving. There's a difference. And Natalie? He looked at her seriously. I need you to learn to receive help. You've been taking care of everyone for so long, you've forgotten how to let someone take care of you. That broke something in her. She started crying right there in the store. Not sad tears. Relief tears. The tears of someone who'd carried weight they were never meant to bear, finally setting it down. Kevin hugged his sister. Brianna patted her arm. And Jonathan stood there, surrounded by shopping bags, feeling more purposeful than he had in years. Back at the house, Mrs. Palmer had prepared lunch. The children sat at the massive dining table, looking tiny in the grand room. Jonathan made a mental note to have meals in the kitchen going forward. This room was too formal. Can we really stay here? Kevin asked, mouthful of sandwich. Yes. I'm going to make sure of it. What if someone comes to take us away? Then I'll fight them. Legally. Properly. But I'll fight. That afternoon, Jonathan's lawyer, Catherine Walsh, arrived. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. She sat with Natalie and took detailed notes, occasionally glancing at Jonathan with an expression he couldn't quite read. When they stepped away to talk privately, Catherine was blunt. This is complicated. 3 minors, no current guardian, likely still in the system somewhere even if their file is lost. Emergency custody is possible, but it's temporary. You'll need to file for foster care certification at minimum. And Jonathan, this isn't a business deal. This is children's lives. Are you prepared for that? More prepared than I've been for anything. Then I'll start the paperwork. But understand, if any relative comes forward, blood ties usually win in court. Even if that relative is less suitable. Then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Catherine left with a promise to have initial documents filed by Monday. Jonathan returned to find the children in the den, Kevin exploring the bookshelf while Natalie helped Brianna color. What happens now? Natalie asked. Now, we become a family. We figure out how this works. We take it one day at a time. Jonathan sat on the floor beside them. And we start by making this house feel like a home instead of a museum. Can we really stay? Kevin asked again, as if afraid the answer might change. Yes. I promise you yes. That night, after the children were in bed, Jonathan stood in his study, looking at the legal documents Catherine had sent. It was a maze of requirements, procedures, background checks. It would take months to navigate properly. But as he thought about 3 pairs of eyes that had been filled with fear and were now starting to show hope, he knew he'd navigate every bit of it. His phone rang. Rachel. How are they? Better. Warmer. Federal's starting to trust me, I think. And you? How are you handling this? Honestly, I feel more alive than I have in years. Is that strange? No. It's human. You found your purpose, Jonathan. Don't let anyone take it away from you. After the call, he walked quietly to the guest rooms. All 3 children were asleep. Kevin sprawled across his bed. Brianna curled into a tiny ball. Natalie slept sitting up, even in safety, ready to protect her siblings. Jonathan made a silent vow. These children would never spend another night in the cold. They'd never go hungry again. They'd never be forgotten or lost in a broken system. Whatever it took, he'd keep them safe. Because some promises were meant to be kept, no matter the cost. The first week passed in a blur of adjustment. Jonathan had never lived with children before and quickly discovered how much he didn't know. Mrs. Palmer became his guide, teaching him the basics of parenting while the children tested every boundary. Kevin was the easiest. The 8-year-old had an open heart and seemed determined to believe in this new reality. He followed Jonathan around like a shadow, asking questions about everything from the chandelier in the foyer to the security system on the gates. Why do you need such a big house if you live alone? Kevin asked on the third morning, watching Jonathan make coffee. I don't know. I bought it years ago thinking I'd fill it someday. Just never got around to it. Well, we're here now. So it's not empty anymore. Kevin said it so matter-of-factly that Jonathan had to smile. Brianna remained silent. She'd point or nod when necessary, but no words came. Rachel brought her colleague, Dr. Rebecca Foster, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. Dr. Foster was in her 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle manner. She sat on the floor with Brianna, not pushing, just being present. After an hour, she spoke with Jonathan privately. Selective mutism, likely trauma-induced. The loss of her mother, the instability, the fear. She's protecting herself the only way she knows how. With time, patience, and safety, she'll speak again. But she needs to know, deep in her bones, that she's truly safe. What can I do to help? Exactly what you're doing. Consistency, warmth, no pressure. Let her communicate however she's comfortable. She'll come back when she's ready. Natalie was the challenge. She watched Jonathan constantly, analyzing his every move. She checked the locks on the doors at night. She hoarded food in her room until Mrs. Palmer gently explained there would always be more. She woke from nightmares, gasping, only relaxing when she confirmed Kevin and Brianna were still beside her. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop, Jonathan observed one evening. They were in the living room. Kevin and Brianna were watching a movie while Natalie pretended to read. Wouldn't you? Good things don't last for people like us. People like you? Unwanted. Forgotten. The ones nobody fights for. She met his eyes. I've learned not to count on anything. Then let me prove you wrong. Give me time. How much time? However long it takes. The legal process began. Catherine Walsh moved with impressive speed, filing emergency custody petitions and beginning the foster care certification process for Jonathan. Social Services finally located the children's lost file and sent a caseworker, Mr. Dennis Chin, for a home visit. Chin was younger than Jonathan expected, maybe early 30s, with a tired expression that suggested too many cases and not enough resources. He walked through the house, noting the children's rooms, the food in the kitchen, the stability of the environment. Mr. Pierce, I'll be honest. This situation is unusual. A single man with no parenting experience suddenly fostering 3 children. It raises questions. I found them freezing in a blizzard. Was I supposed to leave them there? Of course not. But there are proper channels. Emergency services, temporary placements. You've essentially taken custody without authorization. Because your system lost them. They spent 2 months on the street because of bureaucratic failure. Don't lecture me about proper channels when those channels failed catastrophically. Chin had the grace to look uncomfortable. You're right. Their case fell through the cracks. It shouldn't have happened. But now we need to ensure their best interests going forward. And you think being separated is in their best interest? After everything they've been through? I think keeping siblings together is ideal. If you're serious about fostering, completing the certification process is necessary. Until then, technically, I should remove them to proper placement. Natalie, who'd been listening from the stairs, went pale. Jonathan saw her start to move, ready to grab her siblings and run. Over my dead body. Jonathan's voice was steel. Catherine has filed all necessary paperwork. We're cooperating fully with the process. But those children are not leaving this house unless you plan to physically drag them out. And if you try that, I guarantee you'll face a legal battle that will make national news. The headline will be, System Fails Children Twice. How do you think that plays out for your department? Chin sighed. Mr. Pierce, I'm not the enemy. I'm trying to do my job. Then do it by helping us navigate this properly instead of threatening to tear apart a family that's barely started healing. They stared at each other. Finally, Chin nodded. I'll note in my report that the children are safe, well cared for, and showing positive adjustment. The emergency custody will stand pending your certification completion. But Mr. Pierce, understand something. I'll be watching. If I see any indication these children aren't getting what they need, I won't hesitate to act. Fair enough, because I want the same thing you do. These kids safe and thriving. After Chin left, Natalie came downstairs slowly. You didn't let him take us. I told you I wouldn't. But you could have. It would have been easier for you. Less trouble. Natalie, do you know what I did before I found you? I worked 80-hour weeks. I made money I didn't need. I came home to silence. Do you know how loud silence can be when you're alone? He sat on the stairs beside her. You 3 are not trouble. You're the first thing in years that's made me feel like my life has meaning beyond profit margins. What if we mess up? What if Kevin breaks something expensive or I fail a class or Brianna never talks again? Then we deal with it. As a family. That's what families do. I don't remember what that's like. Her voice was small. Having a family. Then we'll figure it out together. None of us know what we're doing. But we'll muddle through. That night, Kevin asked if he could call Jonathan Dad. You don't have to, Jonathan said, touched. I'm not trying to replace your father. He left us. He's not my dad. Not really. Not like dads are supposed to be. Kevin's logic was simple, pure. You're taking care of us. You're here. That's what dads do. Then yes. You can call me Dad if you want to. What about Natalie and Brianna? That's up to them. Everyone gets to decide what feels right. Brianna started drawing constantly. Her pictures filled the refrigerator. Houses with people inside. Tables with food. Beds with blankets. Always warm colors, reds and yellows and oranges. She was drawing safety. One afternoon, Mrs. Palmer found Jonathan looking at the drawings. That child is telling you everything without words. She's saying thank you for warmth. Thank you for food. Thank you for a bed. I just wish she'd speak. She will. Healing isn't linear. It's messy and slow, and sometimes you take 2 steps back before 1 step forward. But these children are healing. I see it every day. Jonathan enrolled them in Riverside Academy, a private school with small classes and strong support services. The principal, Mrs. Ellen Martinez, reviewed their records with a frown. They're behind academically. Natalie should be in 7th grade but is testing at 5th grade levels in math. Kevin's reading is below grade level. And Brianna? She paused. We've never had a nonverbal kindergartner before. Then this is an opportunity for your school to show what inclusive education really means. Jonathan's tone was firm. These children have been through trauma. They need patience and support, not judgment about test scores. Mr. Pierce, I'm not judging. I'm assessing needs. We'll provide tutoring, counseling, whatever helps them succeed. I just wanted you to understand the challenges ahead. Understood. What do you need from me? Patience, consistency, and understanding that some days will be harder than others. The first day of school was difficult. Kevin bounced with excitement, but Natalie was tense and Brianna clung to her sister's hand. What if they're mean? Natalie whispered. Then you tell a teacher. Or you tell me. And we handle it together. Jonathan knelt to their level. You're not alone anymore. Remember that. He watched them walk into the building, Natalie holding Brianna's hand while Kevin chattered nervously. His heart ached with pride and worry in equal measure. That afternoon when he picked them up, Kevin was ecstatic. My teacher is so nice. And we did art. And I made a friend named Tyler. Brianna held up a painting. More warm colors. A house with 4 people inside. Natalie was quiet. At home, she went straight to her room. Jonathan knocked softly. Can I come in? She was sitting on her bed, hugging her knees. Everyone looked at us. The new kids. The charity cases. You're not charity cases. That's how it feels. All their parents drive nice cars and wear expensive clothes. They all belong. We don't. Give it time. What if I can't do the work? What if I'm too far behind? What if everyone realizes we're just street kids pretending to be normal? Jonathan sat beside her. Natalie, you survived 2 months on the street keeping your siblings alive. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. School is hard, but you're harder. And you know what the real difference is between you and those other kids. What? They've never had to fight for anything. You have. That makes you stronger, not weaker. That makes you a survivor. And survivors don't give up. She leaned against his shoulder. It was the first time she'd initiated physical contact. I'm scared. I know. But scared and brave aren't opposites. Brave means being scared and doing it anyway. Did you learn that in business school? I learned it from a 13-year-old girl who protected her siblings in a blizzard. She smiled then, small but real. Over the next few weeks, routines formed. Breakfast together. School. Homework at the kitchen table with Jonathan helping where he could and hiring tutors where he couldn't. Dinner as a family. Movies on Friday nights. Church on Sundays because Natalie mentioned her mother used to take them. Small victories accumulated. Kevin aced a spelling test. Natalie made a friend named Jordan who didn't care about her past. Brianna started humming while she drew. Dr. Foster continued weekly sessions. They're attaching to you, she told Jonathan. That's good. But attachment comes with fear. They'll test you, push boundaries, see if you'll stay when things get hard. She was right. Kevin threw a tantrum when told he couldn't have candy before dinner. Natalie skipped homework to help Mrs. Palmer instead. Brianna refused to go to bed one night, silently but stubbornly. Jonathan handled each situation calmly, consistently. Rules had reasons. Boundaries had purpose. But love was unconditional. "I'm not going anywhere," he repeated over and over. "No matter what. I'm here." Slowly they started to believe him. 1 month after the blizzard, Kevin asked, "When are we leaving?" "What do you mean? When do we go somewhere else? When does this end?" "This doesn't end, Kevin. This is home now. You're staying. Forever. Forever." Kevin processed this, then grinned. "Cool. Can I paint my room blue?" "Sure. We'll do it this weekend." That night, Jonathan stood in the hallway between the 3 bedrooms. He heard Kevin's soft snoring, Brianna's quiet breathing, Natalie's whispered prayers. His house was no longer silent. It was filled with life, noise, laughter, occasional tears, and constant growth. He was no longer alone. He was a father. And for the first time in 3 years since Amy's death, Jonathan Pierce felt whole. Winter melted into early spring. The house transformed from a showpiece into a home. Crayon marks appeared on the hallway wall despite Jonathan's careful supervision. Kevin's soccer ball left a dent in the baseboard. Brianna's butterfly stickers decorated random surfaces. And Jonathan found himself not caring about any of it. Mrs. Palmer was delighted. This house needed handprints and chaos. It was too perfect before, like a magazine spread instead of a place where people actually live. Jonathan's foster care certification was progressing. He completed background checks, home studies, parenting classes. Catherine Walsh guided him through each requirement with military precision. The official adoption paperwork had been filed, with a court date set for June. 3 months, she told him. Then if everything goes smoothly, they're legally yours. No one can take them away. 3 months felt simultaneously close and impossibly far. The children settled into their new life with increasing confidence. Kevin joined the soccer team at school despite being behind the other players. His coach, Mr. Torres, was patient and encouraging. "Your son has heart," Torres told Jonathan after practice one Saturday. "He's not the most skilled yet, but he plays like every game matters. That's rare. He's been through a lot. Sports are helping him be a kid again." "Well, he's certainly that. Asked me yesterday if I'd ever seen a real unicorn. When I said no, he looked disappointed, like I was missing out on something obvious." Jonathan laughed. Kevin's imagination had exploded in the safety of home. He made up elaborate stories, built pillow forts, turned cardboard boxes into spaceships. It was healing to watch. Natalie was thriving academically. Her teacher, Ms. Riley, sent progress reports that showed remarkable improvement. "She works harder than any student I've had. Stays after for extra help, never complains, always tries. Whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it." What they were doing was homework at the kitchen table every night. Jonathan helped with what he could. For subjects beyond his knowledge, he hired tutors who came to the house. Math on Mondays. Reading on Wednesdays. Science on Fridays. "This is expensive," Natalie protested after the first week. "Education is an investment, not an expense. Besides, seeing you succeed is worth more than the cost." She made a friend, Jordan Lee, a quiet girl from her English class. Jordan was an artist who saw past Natalie's defenses to the smart, loyal person underneath. They studied together, ate lunch together, and slowly Natalie started smiling more. "Can Jordan come over sometime?" she asked one evening. "Of course. Invite her for dinner this weekend." "What if she sees how we live and thinks we're showing off or something? Then she's not a real friend. Real friends don't judge you for having good things. They celebrate with you." Jordan came for dinner on Saturday. She was sweet and sincere, complimenting Mrs. Palmer's cooking and asking Kevin about his soccer games. Before she left, she hugged Natalie. "Your family is really nice." After Jordan left, Natalie found Jonathan in his study. "She called you my family. And I didn't correct her. Is that okay?" "More than okay. We are family, Natalie. Even though we're not related by blood? Family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's showing up. It's being there when it matters. By that definition, we're more family than some people who share DNA." She smiled, and Jonathan realized how much more she smiled lately. The wariness hadn't completely left her eyes, but it was fading. Brianna remained silent, but her world expanded in other ways. She excelled in art class, where her teacher, Mrs. Anderson, recognized real talent. "Your daughter has an extraordinary visual sense. The way she uses color to express emotion is remarkable for her age." Jonathan commissioned a mural for Brianna's room, letting her design it herself. She drew a garden full of butterflies, each one a different color. An artist came to paint it on her wall, following her design exactly. When it was finished, Brianna stood in the middle of her room, turning in slow circles, tears running down her face. Then she hugged Jonathan for the first time, wrapped her small arms around his waist and held on tight. "You're welcome, sweetheart," he whispered. Dr. Foster was encouraged. "She's processing trauma through art, which is healthy. The selective mutism is protective. When she feels safe enough, she'll speak. Don't push it." But Jonathan longed to hear her voice. He read her bedtime stories every night, hoping one night she'd read along. He asked her questions, giving her time to answer even when she didn't. He left spaces in conversation for her, making it clear her voice mattered even in its absence. One afternoon, Mrs. Palmer was teaching Brianna to bake cookies. Jonathan watched from the doorway as they measured flour and sugar together. Mrs. Palmer chatted constantly, narrating each step. "Now we mix it all together. See how the dough comes together? That's the magic of baking. Separate ingredients become something new." Brianna smiled and stirred carefully. "You know what my grandmother used to say? She said cookies made with love taste better. So let's put extra love in these, shall we?" Brianna nodded and stirred with exaggerated care, making Mrs. Palmer laugh. It was in these small moments that Jonathan felt most grateful. Not the grand gestures but the everyday normalcy. Homework help. Bedtime routines. Weekend pancakes. Movie nights. The rhythm of family life he'd never known he wanted. His business partners noticed the change. During a video conference, his CFO commented, "You seem different. Lighter somehow. I have kids now. 3 of them. Changes your perspective." "Kids? When did this happen?" "Few months ago. Long story. But yeah, I'm a dad now." "Does this mean you're stepping back from the company?" "It means I'm finding balance. Pierce Technologies will be fine without me micromanaging every decision. And honestly, it feels good to let go a little." He reduced his work hours, declined overseas trips, and conducted most meetings from home. The company didn't collapse. In fact, it thrived. His management team stepped up, proving they were capable of more than he'd given them credit for. In April, the children's birthdays approached. Kevin's was first on April 15th. He'd turned 9. "Can I have a party?" Kevin asked hopefully. "With my soccer team in Jordan and some kids from school?" "Absolutely. What kind of party do you want?" Kevin's eyes went wide. "I can choose." "It's your birthday. Of course you can choose." They settled on a superhero theme with pizza, games, and a bounce house in the backyard. Mrs. Palmer made a cake shaped like a soccer ball. 20 kids showed up and the house was chaos for 3 hours. Jonathan loved every minute of it. Kevin's face when everyone sang happy birthday was pure joy. He blew out his candles and whispered his wish. Later, he told Jonathan what he'd wished for. "I wish that we could stay together forever. That this wasn't a dream. It's not a dream, buddy. This is real. And that wish is already coming true." Natalie's birthday was April 28th. She turned 13, officially a teenager. She was more reserved about celebrations. "Can we do something small? Just us." "Whatever you want." They went to her favorite restaurant, a small Italian place in town. Afterward, Jonathan gave her a gift that made her cry. A locket with photos of her mother on one side and the 4 of them on the other. "So you never have to choose between your old family and your new one. They both matter. They're both part of who you are." She put it on immediately and didn't take it off. Brianna's birthday was May 3rd. She turned 6. For her party, they went to the Children's Museum, just the 4 of them and Mrs. Palmer. Brianna explored every exhibit, painting at the art station, building at the construction zone, dancing in the music room. That night, tucking her into bed, Jonathan gave her a gift wrapped in butterfly paper. She opened it to find an art set with professional-grade supplies. Watercolors, brushes, a sketchbook, colored pencils. Brianna's eyes went wide. She touched each item reverently, then looked up at Jonathan. Her lips moved. No sound came out at first. Then, so quietly he almost missed it, "Thank you." 2 words. The first she'd spoken in months. Jonathan felt tears on his face. "You're so welcome, sweetheart. So very welcome." She smiled and returned to examining her art supplies, but something had shifted. The door to her voice had opened just a crack. Dr. Foster was thrilled. "This is major progress. Don't make a big deal about it, just let her speak when she's ready. She's finding her way back." Over the next few weeks, Brianna spoke occasionally. Single words at first. "Yes." "No." "Please." Then short phrases. "I like this." "Can we go outside?" Kevin's being silly. Each word was a gift. May brought the court date closer. Catherine prepped Jonathan for what to expect. The judge will interview the children. She'll review all our documentation. She'll assess whether this adoption serves their best interests. Given the circumstances, I'm confident. But there's always risk. What kind of risk? Unknown family coming forward. Objections from social services. The judge deciding the kids need more time before such a permanent step. We've done everything right, but courts can be unpredictable. I can't lose them, Catherine. Then we make sure you don't. I've been doing this 30 years. I know how to fight. 2 weeks before the court date, Jonathan's worst fear materialized. A man appeared at the front gate, demanding entry. Security called Jonathan, who reviewed the camera footage. The man was in his 50s, overweight, wearing an ill-fitting suit. Says his name is Gerald Thompson. Claims he's the children's uncle. Jonathan's blood ran cold. He went to the gate himself. Gerald Thompson had thinning hair and calculating eyes. He smiled when he saw Jonathan, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Pierce. I've been looking for my niece and nephews. Heard through social services they're here. They are. And they're staying here. Well, that's what I came to discuss. See, family should be with family. Blood with blood. I'm their uncle, their dad's brother. I have rights. You have zero rights. You abandoned them when their mother was dying. You didn't help with funeral costs. You disappeared when they needed you most. I had financial troubles. But I'm stable now. And I want to do right by my brother's kids. Jonathan saw through the lie immediately. Gerald's clothes were cheap, his car was 10 years old with a cracked windshield. This wasn't about family. This was about money. The adoption hearing is in 2 weeks. You can present your case to the judge. Until then, stay away from these children. I just want to see them. Say hello. No. They don't want to see you. In fact, Natalie specifically mentioned you made them uncomfortable. So no, you're not coming near them. Gerald's smile hardened. We'll see what the court says about that. I'm family. You're just some rich guy playing savior. The law's on my side. He drove away and Jonathan immediately called Catherine. He's going to fight the adoption. We need to be ready. I'll file an objection to his petition. We'll document his abandonment, his financial motives, everything. But Jonathan, he's right about one thing. Blood relations carry weight in family court. This just got a lot harder. That evening, Jonathan had to tell the children. They were in the living room when he broke the news. Kevin looked confused. Brianna went pale. And Natalie's face transformed into pure fear. No, we're not going with him. I told you about him. He's not safe. You're not going anywhere. I promise you. We're fighting this. What if we lose? What if the judge makes us go with him? Her voice rose. I can't protect them from him. I can't. Natalie, listen to me. We have the best lawyer. We have documentation. We have everything on our side. Gerald Thompson is not taking you anywhere. But for the first time since the blizzard, Natalie looked at him with doubt. Like she was remembering that good things don't last. That promises get broken. That people like them don't get happy endings. Jonathan realized the stakes had just become impossibly high. He had 2 weeks to prove that family was more than blood. That choice mattered more than genetics. That 3 children who'd been abandoned by their blood relative deserved better than being handed back to him. 2 weeks to fight for his family. And he'd fight with everything he had. The atmosphere in the house changed overnight. The lightness they'd built over months evaporated, replaced by tension thick enough to choke on. Natalie stopped sleeping, spending nights watching the windows as if Gerald might appear at any moment. Kevin clung to Jonathan constantly, afraid to go to school. Brianna retreated into silence again, her brief words disappearing. Jonathan called an emergency family meeting in the living room. Mrs. Palmer brought hot chocolate even though it was too warm for it. Sometimes comfort mattered more than season. I need you 3 to listen carefully. Gerald Thompson is trying to get custody. But trying doesn't mean succeeding. Jonathan kept his voice calm, steady. We have lawyers, documentation, everything we need to show the judge that you belong here. With me. With us. Courts favor family. Natalie's voice was flat. I looked it up. Blood relatives get priority. He's going to win. Not if we can prove he's not acting in your best interests. That's where you come in. I need you to be honest with the judge about everything. Your past with Gerald, your feelings now, what you want. Can you do that? What if the judge doesn't care what we want? Kevin's voice trembled. What if she says we have to go anyway? Then I appeal. And if that doesn't work, I'll keep fighting until I find a judge who listens. I'm not giving up. Not ever. Brianna climbed into Jonathan's lap and buried her face in his shoulder. He held her tight, feeling her small body shake with silent sobs. Hey, look at me. All of you. Jonathan waited until 3 pairs of eyes met his. Remember when I found you in the blizzard? Remember what Natalie said to me? I said please don't leave us like everyone else did, Natalie whispered. And what did I promise? That you wouldn't. Have I broken that promise yet? She shook her head. Then trust me. Trust that I mean what I say. We're going to court in 2 weeks. We're going to tell the truth. And we're going to win. Together. Catherine Walsh was working around the clock. She filed objections to Gerald's petition, gathered character witnesses, and compiled evidence of his abandonment. But she was realistic about their chances. Family courts are unpredictable. Even with all our evidence, some judges still lean toward blood relations. We need to be prepared for that possibility. What does prepared mean? It means having a backup plan. If the judge awards him custody, we can request supervised visitation first. That delays things, gives us time to document any issues. If he shows any sign of neglect or abuse during those visits, we can file for immediate removal. So we use the children as bait? No. We protect them while following legal channels. It's not ideal, but sometimes the system requires us to work within its limitations. Jonathan hated every word of it. Ms. Valerie Thompson, the social worker, conducted another home visit. She'd been assigned to review the custody case from the state's perspective. She spent hours at the house, observing Jonathan with the children, interviewing each child separately, reviewing their school records and medical files. Mr. Pierce, I want to be transparent with you. My job is to assess what's in these children's best interests, not what's easiest or most convenient. She spoke carefully, professionally. From what I've seen, the children are thriving here. Their academic progress is remarkable. Their emotional health has improved dramatically. Dr. Foster's reports support this. But Gerald Thompson is their blood relative. Unless we can prove he's unfit, the court may favor keeping the children with family. Especially since he's claiming he wants to honor his brother's memory. He wants the foster care payments and any remaining insurance money. This isn't about family. It's about money. I believe you. But we need to prove it. Do you have any evidence of his financial motives? Catherine's investigating his background. Apparently he's facing bankruptcy, has creditors calling, and owes significant back taxes. His sudden interest in the children coincided with learning about their situation. That helps. I'll include it in my recommendation to the court. She paused. Mr. Pierce, these children love you. That's obvious. Kevin talks about you constantly. Brianna drew an entire series of pictures showing family moments. And Natalie, who trusts no one, trusts you. That matters. Will it matter enough? I hope so. I really do. Gerald Thompson wasn't content to wait for the court date. He showed up at Riverside Academy one afternoon, claiming he wanted to see his niece and nephews. The principal, Mrs. Martinez, refused him entry and immediately called Jonathan. Mr. Pierce, there's a man here claiming to be the children's uncle. He's demanding to see them. I've asked him to leave school grounds, but he's being insistent. Jonathan was there in 10 minutes. He found Gerald arguing with security in the parking lot. When Gerald saw Jonathan, his expression shifted to something ugly. Keeping me from my own blood. That's kidnapping. That's protecting children from someone they're afraid of. Leave. No. Or I'll have you arrested for trespassing. You can't stop me from seeing them. I have rights. You have no rights until a court says you do. And harassing them at school is only going to make the judge question your judgment. Jonathan stepped closer, lowering his voice. I know what you're doing. I know why you're really here. And I'm going to make sure the judge knows too. Gerald's eyes narrowed. You're going to regret getting between me and those kids. I guarantee it. Is that a threat? It's a promise. From one businessman to another. He smiled coldly. See, I did some research on you too. Jonathan Pierce, billionaire philanthropist, never been married, no kids of his own. Makes people wonder why a man like that suddenly wants 3 children. Makes people ask questions. The implication was disgusting. Jonathan felt rage flood through him. If you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, I'll destroy you. Not in court. In every other way that matters. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Try it. I've got nothing to lose. You've got everything to lose. Think about that. Security finally escorted Gerald off the property. Jonathan stood in the parking lot, shaking with anger and fear. Not for himself. For the children. Gerald was going to fight dirty, and there was no way to prevent the mud he'd throw from splashing onto the kids. That evening he sat with Natalie on the back porch while Kevin and Brianna played in the yard. Spring had fully arrived, turning everything green and alive. Under other circumstances, it would have been peaceful. Gerald came to your school today. Natalie's whole body tensed. Did he see us? No. Mrs. Martinez wouldn't let him. But Natalie, I need to know. Has he ever done anything inappropriate? Anything that made you uncomfortable beyond just being mean about money? She was quiet for a long time. He used to look at Mom in a way that made her nervous. And once, when she was sick, he tried to get her to sign something. She refused and told him to leave. After he was gone, she cried and made me promise I'd never be alone with him. She didn't say why. Just made me promise. Did you tell the social workers this? No. I didn't think it mattered. And I was scared if I said something bad about the only family we had, they'd think I was making stuff up to avoid being placed. It matters. It matters a lot. I need you to tell Catherine and Miss Thompson exactly what you just told me. What if they don't believe me? They will. Because you're telling the truth. And truth is stronger than lies, even when lies dress up pretty. The next day, Natalie gave a statement to both Catherine and Miss Thompson. Her account of Gerald's behavior toward her mother, combined with his current financial desperation, painted a clear picture of his motives. Catherine was encouraged. This is good. It shows a pattern of manipulation and self-interest. Combined with his bankruptcy filings and the fact that he never offered help when the children needed it, we have a strong case. Is it strong enough? It should be. But I won't lie to you, Jonathan. Family court judges can be wildly inconsistent. Some prioritize blood relations above all else. Others focus on best interest. We won't know which type we have until we're in that courtroom. The days crawled by. Jonathan helped the children prepare for their testimony, teaching them to speak clearly and honestly without coaching them on what to say. Dr. Foster worked with them on managing courtroom anxiety. The judge will ask you questions. Just answer truthfully. If you don't understand a question, say so. If you need a break, ask for one. You're allowed to have feelings. You're allowed to be nervous. Kevin was terrified. What if I cry? Will the judge think I'm a baby? The judge will think you're a child going through something hard. Which you are. It's okay to cry. Brianna drew picture after picture. Houses with doors firmly closed. Butterflies in cages. Dark clouds covering suns. Her art spoke the fears she couldn't voice. The night before the hearing, Jonathan couldn't sleep. He walked through the house, looking at the changes 3 children had made. The photos on the walls. The toys in the den. The growth chart marked on the kitchen doorframe. The soccer trophies on Kevin's dresser. The books on Natalie's shelf. The art supplies in Brianna's room. This was home. This was family. And tomorrow, a stranger in a robe would decide if it got to continue. He found Natalie sitting on the stairs, also unable to sleep. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. What if tomorrow is the last night we're all together? Then we make sure it's not. We go in there, we tell the truth, and we trust that justice matters. He sat beside her. But Natalie, whatever happens tomorrow, know this. You 3 changed my life. You made me understand what matters. Even if the worst happens, even if the system fails us, that doesn't change what we've built here. That doesn't change what we mean to each other. It does if they take us away. No. Because I'll fight. Every day. Every way I can. Until you're 18 and can choose for yourselves if you have to. I'm not walking away. Ever. She leaned against him and they sat in silence, drawing strength from each other. Tomorrow would determine everything. And Jonathan had never felt more powerless in his life. The courthouse was imposing, all marble columns and echoing hallways. Jonathan held Brianna's hand while Natalie and Kevin walked close behind him. Catherine Walsh met them at the entrance, briefcase in hand, expression set for battle. The hearing is in courtroom 3. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. She's been on the bench for 15 years, reputation for being thorough but fair. No clear bias either way on family versus best interest cases. So we're at the mercy of her mood? We're at the mercy of how well we present our case. Which is why I need you to trust me in there. Let me handle the legal arguments. Your job is to be yourself. Be the father these children know. Inside the courtroom, Gerald Thompson sat at the opposing table with his lawyer, a tired-looking man in an outdated suit. Gerald had cleaned up, wearing a better suit, hair combed, attempting to look respectable. But his eyes betrayed him, calculating and cold. The children tensed when they saw him. Kevin grabbed Jonathan's hand. Brianna pressed against his leg. Natalie's face became a mask, but Jonathan saw her hands shaking. "It's okay," he whispered. "He can't hurt you. I won't let him." Judge Morrison entered. She was in her 60s, gray hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Everyone rose. "Good morning. Please be seated. This is the matter of custody regarding minors Natalie, Kevin, and Brianna Thompson. Mr. Pierce has petitioned for adoption. Mr. Gerald Thompson has filed an objection and a competing custody claim. We're here to determine what serves the children's best interests." She looked directly at the children. "I know this is scary. We'll take breaks if you need them. My job is to listen to everyone and make the best decision I can." "Okay." Kevin nodded. Brianna stared at her lap. Natalie met the judge's eyes with careful composure. "Ms. Walsh, you may begin." Catherine stood, commanding the room immediately. "Your Honor, the facts of this case are straightforward. Jonathan Pierce found these 3 children on Christmas Eve, freezing in a blizzard, abandoned by every system meant to protect them. He took them in, provided emergency care, and has since given them stability, love, and a home. They've thrived under his care, as documented extensively in the materials provided to the court." She walked through the evidence methodically. School records showing academic improvement. Medical reports showing restored health. Dr. Foster's psychological evaluations documenting healing from trauma. Character witnesses from teachers, coaches, and neighbors. Ms. Thompson's recommendation in favor of the adoption. Mr. Pierce didn't seek out this responsibility. It found him. But once it did, he embraced it fully. He's completed all foster care certification requirements. He's been evaluated and approved. And most importantly, these children have chosen him as their father. Gerald's lawyer stood. His name was Frank Winters, and he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Your Honor, while Mr. Pierce's care of the children is commendable, the law is clear. Family should remain with family when possible. Mr. Gerald Thompson is the children's paternal uncle, their closest blood relative. He's expressing a genuine desire to care for his brother's children, to honor his brother's memory. Blood ties matter. The children belong with their family. Mr. Winters, does your client have any history of involvement with these children?" Winters hesitated. He had limited contact before their mother's passing, but circumstances prevented closer involvement. "What circumstances?" "Financial difficulties, Your Honor, which have since been resolved." Catherine stood again. "Your Honor, may I present evidence regarding those financial difficulties?" She submitted Gerald's bankruptcy filing, tax liens, creditor judgments. The picture was clear. Gerald wasn't financially stable. He was drowning and saw the children as a life raft. Mr. Thompson hasn't contributed to these children's care once in the past 6 months. He didn't attend their mother's funeral. He didn't respond when social services attempted contact during the children's placement crisis. His sudden interest coincides precisely with learning they're in the care of a wealthy benefactor. "Your Honor, that's speculation," Winters protested. "Is it? Let's ask Mr. Thompson directly." Judge Morrison turned to Gerald. "Mr. Thompson, why are you seeking custody now?" Gerald stood, attempting sincerity. "Your Honor, I deeply regret not being there when my brother's family needed me. I was dealing with personal problems and handled them poorly. But I've turned my life around. These children are my brother's legacy. I want to honor him by caring for them the way he would have wanted." "When did you last see these children?" "At their mother's funeral. Briefly." "And before that?" Gerald hesitated. "Several years ago, when their mother was first diagnosed." "Did you offer assistance at that time?" Another hesitation. "I wasn't in a position to help financially." "I'm not asking about money, Mr. Thompson. I'm asking if you offered any support. Emotional, practical, anything." "I visited once." "Once?" "In 2 years of their mother battling cancer." Judge Morrison's tone remained neutral, but her point was clear. "Mr. Thompson, help me understand. Your brother abandoned these children years ago. Their mother died 6 months ago. In that time you had one brief contact at the funeral. Yet now you believe you're the appropriate guardian?" "I'm their uncle." "Family. Family is a verb, Mr. Thompson, not just a noun. Let's hear from the children themselves." Jonathan's heart pounded. This was it. Everything came down to what the children said next. Judge Morrison looked at Natalie. "Natalie, you're the oldest. I'd like to hear from you first. You can sit in the witness chair or stay where you are. Whatever makes you more comfortable." Natalie stood, shoulders back, walking to the witness chair with dignity. She looked small in the formal setting, but her voice was steady. "Tell me about your life with Mr. Pierce." "He saved us. Not just that night in the blizzard. Every day since. He's teaching me that good people exist. That promises can be kept. That maybe I don't have to be in charge of everything all the time. Her voice wavered slightly. He's teaching me how to be a kid again. How do you feel about your uncle's petition? Natalie's mask slipped. Fear showed through. I'm terrified. My mother didn't trust him. She made me promise never to be alone with him. He scared her when she was sick, trying to get her to sign papers. He never helped us. Not once. And now he shows up wanting custody? She looked directly at Gerald. This isn't about us. It's about money. And I won't let you use us for that. Miss Thompson, I understand you're upset, but please direct your comments to me. Judge Morrison's voice was gentle but firm. Natalie, what do you want? I want to stay with Jonathan. I want him to adopt us. I want to keep living in a house where someone knows our names and cares if we're happy and sad. I want to keep going to the same school with friends who don't treat me like I'm broken. I want my sister to keep healing. I want my brother to keep being a kid. And I want... Her voice broke. I want someone who chose us because he cares, not because he thinks he can make money off us. Thank you, Natalie. That was very brave. Kevin was next. He walked to the chair slowly, looking back at Jonathan for reassurance. Kevin, do you understand why we're here today? Yes, ma'am. Uncle Gerald wants us to live with him instead of Dad. You call Mr. Pierce Dad? Yes, ma'am. Because that's what he is. He tucks me in and helps with homework and comes to my soccer games and makes sure I'm not scared at night. That's what dads do. Tell me about your Uncle Gerald. Kevin's voice dropped. I don't remember him much. He came once when Mom was sick. He made her cry. Natalie told me to stay in my room while he was there. I don't want to live with him. I want to stay with my real family. Your real family? Dad, Natalie, Brianna, Mrs. Palmer? That's my family now. Uncle Gerald is just someone who wants something from us. How do you know that? Because family shows up. They don't disappear for years and then come back when it's convenient. Dad taught me that. He showed up. Every day. He's still showing up. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. Thank you, Kevin. You can sit down now. Brianna was last. She walked to the chair holding a piece of paper, one of her drawings. She didn't sit. She stood in front of the judge's bench and held up the picture. It showed 4 people standing in front of a house. A tall man, 2 girls, and a boy. All holding hands. Hearts drawn above their heads. In careful letters at the bottom. My family. Is this your family, Brianna? Brianna nodded. Can you point to who each person is? She pointed to the tall figure. Dad. Her voice was quiet but clear. Then to the other figures. Natalie. Kevin. Me. That's a beautiful picture. Is this where you want to stay? Another nod, emphatic. What about your Uncle Gerald? Do you want to live with him? Brianna's face transformed into terror. She shook her head violently, backing away from the bench until she reached Jonathan. She climbed into his lap and buried her face in his shoulder. The message was clear. Even the youngest, who'd been silent for months, could express her feelings about Gerald. Judge Morrison sat back, studying the scene. Then she looked at Gerald. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask you a direct question. Why do you really want custody? Their family, Your Honor. Mr. Thompson, I've been doing this a long time. I can usually tell when someone's being truthful. Try again. Why do you want these children? Gerald's facade cracked. Fine. You want honesty? I'm broke. I'm facing bankruptcy. Yes, the foster care payments would help. Yes, there's a small life insurance policy from their mother. Yes, I need the money. But that doesn't mean I can't also care for them. I'm family. That should count for something. It does count. But not as much as you think. Not when weighed against what I've seen here. She gestured to the children. These children have found stability, safety, and love. They found a father who chose them. That's not something to disrupt lightly. Your Honor, blood is blood. The law recognizes that. The law recognizes best interests. And Mr. Thompson, I don't believe you're acting in these children's best interests. I believe you're acting in yours. She looked at Catherine. Ms. Walsh, do you have anything to add? Only this, Your Honor. Mr. Pierce isn't perfect. He's learning how to be a father as he goes. But he's showing up every single day with love, patience, and commitment. These children deserve that. They deserve someone who wants them for who they are, not for what they can provide. Judge Morrison was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. I'm ready to rule. The courtroom held its breath. Judge Morrison looked at each person in the courtroom, her gaze finally settling on the children. In my 15 years on this bench, I've heard hundreds of custody cases. Most are complicated. Many are heartbreaking. This case is both. But it's also in some ways the clearest case I've seen. She referred to her notes. Mr. Thompson, you've been honest about your financial motives, which I appreciate. But honesty about poor intentions doesn't make those intentions acceptable. These children are not financial instruments. They're human beings who've suffered tremendous loss and trauma. Gerald started to speak, but Judge Morrison held up her hand. I'm not finished. Mr. Pierce, you came into this situation as a stranger. You had no obligation to these children beyond basic human decency. You could have called emergency services and driven away. No one would have blamed you. But you didn't. You opened your home and your heart. That matters. She paused, looking at the documentation in front of her. I've reviewed the evidence extensively. School records showing remarkable academic progress. Medical reports indicating restored health and well-being. Psychological evaluations from Dr. Rebecca Foster documenting significant healing from trauma. Character references from teachers, coaches, and community members. And most compellingly, the voices of the children themselves. Jonathan felt Brianna's small body tense in his lap. Kevin was gripping his hand so tightly it hurt. Natalie sat rigid, barely breathing. Family court exists to protect children's best interests. Sometimes that means keeping blood relations together. Sometimes it means recognizing that family is more than genetics. This is one of those times. Relief started to flood through Jonathan, but the judge wasn't done. However, I need to address the concerns Mr. Winters raised about proper procedure. Mr. Pierce, you essentially took custody of these children without authorization. While your intentions were good, that's technically a violation of protocol. Catherine stood quickly. Your Honor, Mr. Pierce contacted medical professionals immediately and began the proper legal process within days. The children would have died without his intervention. Protocol sometimes must yield to emergency. I agree, Ms. Walsh. Which is why I'm noting the violation but not penalizing Mr. Pierce for it. Intent matters. She shuffled papers then looked up. I've also considered Mr. Thompson's rights as a blood relative. The law does give weight to family connections. But Mr. Thompson, you forfeited those rights through abandonment. You had years to step up and you didn't. You don't get to claim family now because it's financially convenient. Gerald's face reddened, but he stayed silent. The children have spoken clearly about their wishes. Natalie, at 13, is old enough for her opinion to carry significant weight. Kevin and Brianna, while younger, have also expressed themselves unambiguously. All three want to remain with Mr. Pierce. All three call him Dad. All three have built a life in his home. Judge Morrison looked at Jonathan. Mr. Pierce, I'm going to ask you a direct question. This isn't about guilt or obligation. Why do you want to adopt these children? Jonathan stood still holding Brianna. He hadn't prepared an answer. He spoke from his heart. Your Honor, 3 months ago I had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. I worked constantly but had no one to come home to. I achieved success but had no one to share it with. I was alone and didn't even realize how empty that was until I found 3 children freezing in a blizzard. He looked at Natalie and Kevin. These kids have taught me what matters. They've shown me that family isn't something you're born into. It's something you build through showing up every day, through keeping promises, through choosing to stay even when it's hard. They've made me a better person. They've given me purpose. And I love them. Not because I feel obligated. Not because it makes me look good. But because they're mine and I'm theirs, and that's how love works. Even though you didn't choose this initially, I did choose it. Maybe not in the parking lot of that gas station. But every day since then I've chosen it. I've chosen to be their father. They've chosen to be my children. That's what family is. A series of choices to keep showing up for each other. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. Ms. Walsh, I see Dr. Foster submitted a report. Can you summarize her findings? Catherine consulted her documents. Dr. Foster has been working with the children for 3 months. Her report indicates that all 3 have made remarkable progress in processing trauma. Natalie is learning to trust adults again. Kevin is developing age-appropriate social skills and confidence. Brianna, who was selectively mute for weeks, is beginning to speak again. Dr. Foster attributes this progress directly to the stable, nurturing environment Mr. Pierce has provided. Does she have concerns about the adoption? None. In fact, she strongly recommends it. She believes disrupting the children's placement now would cause significant psychological harm. What about concerns regarding a single father? Has that been addressed? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Pierce has a strong support system. His housekeeper, Mrs. Margaret Palmer, provides a maternal presence. He's engaged professional support including tutors, counselors, and coaches. He's reduced his work commitments to be present for the children. He's created a comprehensive care plan that ensures the children's needs are met. Judge Morrison turned to Ms. Valerie Thompson, the social worker. Ms. Thompson, you've conducted home visits and reviewed the situation from the state's perspective. What's your recommendation? Ms. Thompson stood. Your Honor, my job is to be objective. To look past the emotional appeal and assess practicalities. Can Mr. Pierce truly provide what 3 traumatized children need? After extensive observation, my answer is yes. He's not perfect. He's learning. But he's committed, resourceful, and genuinely focused on the children's well-being. More importantly, the children have attached to him in ways that indicate healthy parent-child bonding. Disrupting that would be cruel. What about Mr. Thompson's petition? Should blood relation factor into your recommendation? Under normal circumstances, yes. But these aren't normal circumstances. Mr. Thompson abandoned these children when they needed him most. He's demonstrated no capacity for caregiving and has admitted his primary motivation is financial. I cannot in good conscience recommend placing vulnerable children with someone whose motives are questionable at best. Judge Morrison made notes. I appreciate your candor, Ms. Thompson. Mr. Winters, does your client wish to add anything? Frank Winters looked at Gerald, who nodded. Winters stood reluctantly. Your Honor, my client maintains that blood ties should be given more weight. He acknowledges past failures but believes he deserves a chance to make amends. He's asking the court to at least consider supervised visitation as a compromise. Absolutely not. Catherine's voice was sharp. These children are terrified of Mr. Thompson. Forcing contact would be psychologically damaging. Judge Morrison held up her hand. Ms. Walsh, I'll decide what's appropriate. Mr. Thompson, stand please. Gerald stood, attempting to look dignified. Mr. Thompson, I believe you've been honest about your motivations and I appreciate that. But honesty doesn't change the fact that your intentions are self-serving. You see these children as a means to an end. That's not parenting. That's exploitation. Your Honor, I'm not finished. You had multiple opportunities to be present for these children. When their mother was dying. When she passed away. When they entered the foster system. When they fell through the cracks and ended up on the street. At any point you could have stepped up. You didn't. You don't get to claim family now. But I'm their uncle. Their blood. And they're strangers to you. Blood means nothing without relationship. You have no relationship with these children. More importantly, they want no relationship with you. Forcing one would cause harm. Judge Morrison turned to Jonathan and the children. Here's what I'm ruling. Mr. Thompson's petition for custody is denied. Mr. Pierce's petition for adoption is granted. Effective immediately, Jonathan Pierce is the legal parent of Natalie, Kevin, and Brianna Thompson. Their names will remain Thompson unless they choose to change them. Mr. Thompson's request for visitation is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. Mr. Thompson is not to contact these children directly or indirectly. Any violation will result in immediate legal consequences. The courtroom was silent for a heartbeat. Then chaos erupted. Catherine was smiling, gathering papers. Miss Thompson looked relieved. Gerald was protesting to his lawyer. And the children were crying. Kevin launched himself at Jonathan, wrapping his arms around his waist. We can stay. Really stay? Really stay? Forever. Natalie stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. She said yes? We're adopted. You're adopted. You're mine. Legally, officially, permanently. Brianna was silent, but her small arms were wrapped around Jonathan's neck so tightly he could barely breathe. Judge Morrison banged her gavel. Mr. Thompson, I suggest you leave this courtroom now. Any further disruption will result in contempt charges. Gerald stood, face red with rage. This isn't over. You can't just. It is over, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Winters, please escort your client out. Frank Winters, looking relieved to be done with the case, guided Gerald toward the exit. As they passed Jonathan's family, Gerald made one last attempt. You'll regret this. All of you. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. Mr. Thompson, that statement could be construed as threatening. Would you like to rephrase, or would you prefer I add harassment charges to your file? Gerald left without another word. When the courtroom cleared, Judge Morrison came down from the bench. She knelt in front of the children, her formal demeanor softening. You 3 have been through something no child should experience. But you survived. You stayed together. You protected each other. That took incredible courage. I hope you know how special you are. She looked at Jonathan. Mr. Pierce, you've taken on a tremendous responsibility. These children will need years of support, therapy, patience. There will be hard days ahead. Are you ready for that? I am. We all are. Good. Because they deserve someone who's ready to stay through the hard parts, not just the easy ones. She stood. Congratulations. You're officially a family. Outside the courthouse, spring sunshine felt like a benediction. Jonathan stood on the steps with his 3 children, Catherine beside them, and felt something shift in his chest. They were his. Legally, irrevocably his. Mrs. Palmer was waiting at the bottom of the steps. When she saw them, she started crying and opened her arms wide. The children ran to her and she gathered them close. My babies. My beautiful, brave babies. Catherine shook Jonathan's hand. Congratulations. That was one of the most clear-cut rulings I've seen. Judge Morrison made the right call. Thank you. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you. You did this yourself. By being exactly who those children needed. She paused. Jonathan, enjoy this victory. You earned it. But remember, the adoption is just the beginning. The real work of being a family happens in the everyday moments ahead. I know. And I'm ready for it. They went to lunch at the Italian restaurant Natalie loved, the one where they'd celebrated her birthday. The children were giddy, talking over each other, laughing too loud, drawing looks from other diners. Jonathan didn't care. Let people look. This was joy in its purest form. So what happens now? Kevin asked through a mouthful of pasta. Now we go home and keep being a family. Just like we have been. But it's official now? Natalie sought confirmation. It's official. Papers signed, judge's order entered. No one can take you away. Not even Gerald? Especially not Gerald. The restraining order means he can't even try. Relief washed over Natalie's face. The wariness she'd carried for months finally fully left her eyes. That evening they celebrated at home. Mrs. Palmer made a cake that said Forever Family in blue frosting. They ate too much, watched movies, and stayed up past bedtime. When Jonathan tucked Brianna into bed, she looked up at him with serious eyes. Daddy? She tried the word carefully, testing it. Yes, sweetheart. Love you. I love you too. So much. She smiled and closed her eyes, content. Kevin was already asleep, sprawled across his bed, still wearing his courtroom clothes. Jonathan removed his shoes and covered him with a blanket. Kevin murmured something about soccer and rolled over. Natalie was sitting up in bed, looking at photos on her phone. Jonathan sat on the edge of her bed. How are you feeling? Like I can finally breathe. Like we're really safe now. She showed him her phone. Jordan texted. She said her whole family is happy for us. That's nice of them. I told her everything. About Mom, about the street, about Gerald. She didn't judge. She just said I was brave. You are brave. I was scared. I'm still scared sometimes. That's okay. Brave doesn't mean not scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. Natalie set her phone aside. Can I ask you something? Why? You could have called 911 and driven away. You could have handed us over to social services. You could have done the minimum and moved on. Why did you do all of this? Jonathan thought about how to answer. Finally, he went with truth. Because you were there. Because you needed help. And because somewhere deep down, I needed you too. I didn't know I was lonely until I wasn't anymore. I didn't know my life was empty until it got full. You 3 saved me as much as I saved you. That's a nice thing to say. It's true. You gave me purpose, Natalie. You gave me a reason to come home. You gave me a family. That's not something I take lightly. She hugged him then, fierce and tight. Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on us. I never will. That's a promise. I think she'd be grateful you found someone to fill that role. Your mom loved you. She'd want you to be happy. I'm happy. For the first time in forever, I'm actually happy. August brought preparations for the new school year. Jonathan took them shopping for supplies and clothes. Kevin wanted everything with his favorite superhero. Brianna chose art supplies carefully, selecting the perfect sketchbook. Natalie picked out a planner and organized it meticulously, already planning her 8th grade year. You know you don't have to plan everything, right? Jonathan teased. I like planning. It makes me feel safe. Fair enough. Plan away. The first day of school was bittersweet. Jonathan walked them to the bus stop, feeling the same anxiety any parent feels watching their children grow up. You'll be fine, he told them. We know. Kevin grinned. But you're still going to worry, aren't you? Probably. When the bus pulled away, Jonathan stood there until it disappeared around the corner. Then he went home to a suddenly too quiet house. Mrs. Palmer found him staring at nothing in the kitchen. "They'll be home in 6 hours." "I know. It's just weird. The house feels empty." "Get used to it. They're growing up. That's what children do." Jonathan threw himself into work for a few hours, but found himself checking the time constantly. When the bus finally returned, he met them at the stop. "Dad, we're not babies," Natalie protested, but she was smiling. "I know. Humor me." They told him about their day over snacks. Kevin had made 2 new friends. Brianna had impressed. Her art teacher with her portfolio. Natalie had been assigned to advanced classes. "I might struggle," she admitted. "The work is harder. Then we'll get you help. That's what tutors are for." "You really won't get mad if I don't do well?" "Natalie, I'm proud of you for trying. Results matter less than effort. As long as you're doing your best, I'm happy." That evening, Jonathan got a call from Catherine Walsh. "I just wanted to check in. How's the family?" "We're good. Really good. The kids are thriving." "I'm glad. You know, Jonathan, when I took this case, I wasn't sure it would work out. Single man, no parenting experience, 3 traumatized kids. Could have gone badly. But you proved me wrong. I had a lot of help. You had commitment. That's what mattered. Most people would have given up when Gerald challenged the adoption. But you fought. I didn't have a choice. They're my kids. That's exactly what I mean. You saw them as yours from the beginning. That made all the difference." After the call, Jonathan found himself reflecting on the past 8 months. The blizzard seemed like a lifetime ago. The terrified children he'd found barely resembled the confident, happy kids living in his house now. But traces remained. Natalie still checked the locks at night. Kevin still had occasional nightmares. Brianna still went silent when overwhelmed. They were healing, but healing wasn't linear. Dr. Foster had warned him about this. Trauma doesn't just disappear. It leaves marks. Your job isn't to erase those marks but to help them live with them. To show them that past trauma doesn't define future happiness. Jonathan thought about his own trauma, his sister's death that had shut him down emotionally. The children had healed him as much as he'd healed them. They'd shown him that love was worth the risk of loss. That connection mattered more than safety. That family was something you built, not something you were born into. In September, Kevin's soccer team made the finals. The whole family attended, bundled in sweatshirts against the autumn chill. Kevin scored the winning goal with seconds left on the clock. His team mobbed him and Jonathan's heart felt too big for his chest. "That's my son," he told the parent next to him. "He played great. You must be proud. You have no idea." Afterward, they went for pizza, Kevin still wearing his muddy uniform. He talked nonstop about the game, reliving every play. Brianna drew pictures of her brother scoring. Natalie teased him gently about his victory dance. This, Jonathan thought. This is what I was missing. This ordinary, chaotic, perfect family moment. In October, they carved pumpkins on the back patio. Kevin made his scary. Brianna made hers beautiful, turning it into art. Natalie made hers practical, ensuring the candle would stay lit. "You 3 are so different," Mrs. Palmer observed. "That's what makes it work," Jonathan replied. "They balance each other." Halloween brought trick-or-treating. Kevin was a superhero, Brianna was a butterfly, and Natalie reluctantly agreed to be a witch. Jonathan handed out candy while Mrs. Palmer supervised the children's neighborhood rounds. When they returned, dumping their haul on the living room floor, Jonathan helped sort it, stealing the occasional piece with exaggerated secrecy that made them laugh. "Dad, we can see you," Natalie pointed out. "I have no idea what you're talking about." November meant Thanksgiving. Their first as an official family. Jonathan invited Rachel, Catherine, Dr. Foster, and Miss Thompson. The house filled with people who'd helped them become a family. Before dinner, Jonathan asked each person to share something they were grateful for. Kevin said his family and soccer. Brianna said colors and drawing. Natalie said safety and second chances. When it was Jonathan's turn, he looked at his 3 children. "I'm grateful for a blizzard that changed my life. For 3 incredible kids who taught me what matters. For the chance to be a father. And for every person at this table who helped us get here." Speech, Kevin yelled, making everyone laugh. As winter approached again, marking nearly a year since the blizzard, Jonathan felt the completion of a circle. They'd started in winter's cold and grown through spring and summer. Now winter was returning, but everything was different. They were different. One evening, decorating the house for Christmas, Brianna asked, "Will we do this every year?" "Every year," Jonathan confirmed. "That's what families do. They create traditions." I like traditions, she said softly. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. That night, after the children were asleep, Jonathan stood in his study looking at the family portrait they'd had taken in September. For people smiling at the camera. A family in every sense that mattered. His phone chimed. A text from Natalie. Thank you for not driving past that night. Thank you for everything. Love you, Dad. Jonathan smiled, tears in his eyes. Love you too. Forever. Forever wasn't just a promise anymore. It was their reality. The anniversary of the blizzard approached. Jonathan hadn't planned to make it significant, but the children remembered. Natalie marked it on her calendar. Kevin mentioned it in passing. Brianna drew pictures of snow and cars and 4 people holding hands. It's the day we became a family, Natalie said simply. That matters. So they decided to celebrate it. Not the trauma but the transformation. Not the cold night but the warm home that followed. 6 months had passed since the adoption. The children were thriving in ways that still amazed Jonathan. School reports were excellent. Social connections were strong. The house was filled with laughter more often than tears. But healing wasn't linear, as Dr. Foster kept reminding them. Some days were harder than others. Kevin had his first major meltdown in October. A bad day at school, a failed test, a friend who'd been unkind. It all compounded until he exploded in anger, throwing his backpack and yelling that he hated everything. Jonathan let him rage, staying calm. When Kevin exhausted himself, Jonathan held him while he cried. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Kevin sobbed into Jonathan's shoulder. You don't have to apologize for having feelings. But I yelled at you. I said mean things. You were overwhelmed. It happens. We all have bad days. Aren't you mad? No. I'm sad you had a hard day, but I'm not mad at you. You're allowed to be upset. Even if I throw stuff? Well, let's work on expressing anger without throwing things. But having the anger isn't wrong. They talked about healthy ways to process frustration. Journaling. Physical activity. Talking to someone. Creating art. Finding outlets that didn't involve destruction. Can I come to you when I'm upset? Even if it's not a big deal? Especially then. I'm always here for you, Kevin. Always. Natalie struggled differently. Her perfectionism intensified as schoolwork got harder. She'd spend hours on assignments, redoing them until they were flawless. When she got an A- instead of an A, she cried for an hour. I'm not smart enough. I'm falling behind. Everyone's better than me. Natalie, you're in advanced classes. You're doing incredibly well. But I should be doing better. I should be perfect. What? Who said you have to be perfect? She didn't have an answer. They talked to Dr. Foster, who explained that Natalie's perfectionism was a control mechanism. She couldn't control the trauma of her past, so she tried to control everything in her present. The goal isn't perfection, Dr. Foster told her. It's progress. It's doing your best and accepting that your best is enough. It took time for Natalie to internalize this. Jonathan helped by deliberately making mistakes and being okay with them. Burning dinner and laughing about it. Losing at board games without being upset. Showing her that imperfection was human and acceptable. I don't expect you to be perfect, he told her repeatedly. I expect you to be you. That's all I want. Brianna's healing was visible in her art. Her drawings gradually shifted from houses and warm colors to more complex scenes. People expressing emotions. Landscapes with both light and shadow. Stories unfolding across pages. Her teacher, Mrs. Anderson, requested a meeting. Brianna's talent is exceptional. Have you considered formal art classes? Jonathan enrolled her in a Saturday morning art program at the community center. Brianna loved it, coming home each week with new techniques and growing confidence. But she still had moments of regression. Days when words felt impossible, when she communicated only through drawings. Jonathan learned to recognize these moments and give her space. It's okay to need quiet sometimes, he told her. You don't have to talk if you're not ready. She'd smile and squeeze his hand, grateful for the understanding. In November, the children asked to visit their mother's grave. They hadn't been since the adoption, and Jonathan realized they needed this closure. They drove to the cemetery on a cool Saturday morning. The grave was simple, marked by a modest headstone. The children stood quietly, then each left something. Kevin placed his first soccer trophy. Brianna left a drawing. Natalie left a letter. What did you write? Jonathan asked gently. I told her about us. About you. About being safe and happy. I told her we're okay so she doesn't have to worry anymore. Jonathan's eyes stung with tears. That's beautiful. Do you think she knows? Wherever she is. I think mothers always know when their children are okay. I think she's at peace. They stood together in silence, remembering the woman who'd given them life and done her best against impossible odds. We should come back sometimes, Natalie said. So she's not alone. We will. As often as you want. December brought Christmas preparations. The children wanted to go all out, decorating every surface, baking dozens of cookies, making gifts for each other. Last Christmas we were so scared, Kevin remembered. This Christmas we're not. That's pretty cool. They went Christmas shopping together, the children conspiring to find perfect gifts for each other and for Jonathan. They whispered and hid purchases, giggling at their secrets. Jonathan found himself enjoying the chaos. The mess in the kitchen from cookie baking. The wrapping paper explosions. The Christmas music playing constantly. The arguments about what movie to watch. This was family. Messy, loud, imperfect, and absolutely perfect. On Christmas Eve, they drove to the location where Jonathan had found them. A small memorial had been placed there by the community, honoring homeless individuals. The children added to it, leaving warm blankets and food they'd purchased. So no one else has to be as cold as we were, Natalie explained. They stood in the snow, bundled in warm coats, and Jonathan reflected on how far they'd come. 3 children who'd nearly died were now healthy, happy, and thinking of others. Ready to go home? He asked. Home, Brianna repeated, liking the word. Christmas morning was chaos in the best way. Presents were opened, squeals of joy filled the house, and Mrs. Palmer made a breakfast feast that could have fed 20 people. Best Christmas ever, Kevin declared, surrounded by wrapping paper. Best family ever, Natalie added, smiling at Jonathan. That afternoon they video called with Rachel, Catherine, Dr. Foster, and Miss Thompson, sharing their day with people who'd become extended family. You all look so happy, Rachel said through the screen. This is what I hoped for that night when I first saw you 3. This joy. In January, school resumed. Kevin tried out for the school play and got a small part. Brianna entered an art competition. Natalie joined the debate team, discovering she loved arguing positions articulately. You're all finding your things, Mrs. Palmer observed. The activities that make you who you are. Jonathan attended every practice, every competition, every performance. He cheered too loud and took too many photos and didn't care who thought he was being excessive. That's what dads do, Miss Thompson told him when she saw him at one of Kevin's soccer games. They show up and embarrass their kids with enthusiasm. I'm okay with that. In February, Dr. Foster suggested reducing sessions to twice monthly. They're doing well. They still need support, but they're stable. Healthy. You've done good work, Jonathan. We've done good work. All of us together. That's true. But you created the environment that made healing possible. Never underestimate that. Valentine's Day brought school parties and homemade cards. Brianna made Jonathan a card with a drawing of them as superheroes. Kevin bought him chocolates with his allowance. Natalie wrote him a letter about what he meant to her. You're the best dad anyone could ask for. Even though you're still learning and sometimes mess up, you never give up on us. That's what matters most. Love, Natalie. Jonathan kept the letter in his desk drawer, reading it whenever he doubted himself. In March, something unexpected happened. Gerald Thompson died. Heart attack, sudden and fatal. The news came through Catherine, who'd been monitoring his situation. I wanted you to know before it becomes public. The restraining order is obviously moot now, but I thought the children might have feelings about it. Jonathan gathered the children and told them gently. He watched their reactions carefully. Kevin looked confused. Are we supposed to be sad? You're allowed to feel however you feel. There's no right or wrong reaction. Brianna was quiet, processing. Natalie looked relieved, then guilty about feeling relieved. He was family even if he wasn't good family, she said slowly. Is it okay that I'm mostly relieved he can't bother us anymore? It's completely okay. You can feel relieved and still acknowledge that a person died. Feelings are complicated. They talked about it with Dr. Foster, who helped them understand that relief was a natural response to the removal of a threat. That feeling safe didn't make them bad people. That they could acknowledge Gerald's death without pretending to grief they didn't feel. Sometimes the end of danger is what we mourn, Dr. Foster explained. You mourn that he never became the uncle he could have been. You mourn the potential that was never realized. But you don't have to mourn the person who threatened your safety. With Gerald gone, the last shadow over their family disappeared. The children relaxed in a way they hadn't before, as if a weight they didn't know they were carrying had lifted. Spring arrived with renewal. Gardens bloomed. The children played outside more. Life continued in its beautiful, ordinary way. One evening, sitting on the back porch while the children played in the yard, Jonathan thought about everything they'd been through. The fear, the fights, the growth, the healing. "We made it," Natalie said, joining him. She'd gotten tall over the winter, nearly as tall as his shoulder now. "We did. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? If you'd driven past that night?" "Sometimes. But I didn't drive past. I stopped. And everything else followed from that choice." "I'm glad you stopped." "Me too, kiddo. Me too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Kevin teach Brianna how to throw a football. She wasn't very good at it, but she laughed every time it went in the wrong direction. "They're happy," Natalie observed. "So are you." She smiled. "Yeah, I really am. I never thought I'd be able to say that and mean it, but I do. I'm happy. That's all I ever wanted for you three. Just to be happy and safe." Mission accomplished. Later that night, tucking Brianna into bed, Jonathan asked if she was okay after the news about Gerald. She nodded. "He's gone. We're safe now. Really safe. You were always safe here." "I know. But now there's no one trying to take us away. It's different." "I understand. Does it feel better?" "Yes. Like a door closing. The bad stuff is behind the door and we're on this side where it's good. That's a perfect way to describe it." She yawned, tired from playing. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart. I love being your daughter. I love being your dad." She smiled and closed her eyes, secure in the knowledge that tomorrow would bring more of the same goodness. And Jonathan sat in the hallway between their rooms, listening to three children breathe in sleep, and felt complete. Healing wasn't a destination. It was a journey they were taking together, step by step, day by day. And they had all the time in the world. Christmas Eve arrived exactly 1 year after the blizzard. The house was decorated beautifully, but Jonathan had something else planned. Something that would honor their journey while helping others. "Get dressed warm," he told the children that morning. "We're going out." "Where?" Kevin asked, excited as always. "You'll see." He loaded the car with boxes they'd spent weeks preparing. Warm coats, blankets, food, winter supplies. Everything someone living on the streets might need. "Are we giving this stuff away?" Natalie asked. "We are. To people who need it as much as you did a year ago." They drove to the homeless shelter downtown. Jonathan had contacted the director weeks ago, arranging this visit. The children carried boxes inside, stacking them in the donation room. Natalie stood in the shelter's common room, looking at the people gathered there. Families, individuals, children. All displaced, all struggling, all trying to survive winter. "That was us," she said quietly. "We were right here, desperate and scared, and someone reached out a hand." The shelter director, a woman named Lois Crawford, shook Jonathan's hand warmly. "This donation is incredible. It'll help so many people." The kids wanted to give back. They understand what it's like to need help. Natalie stepped forward. "Can I say something? To everyone?" Lois nodded and got the room's attention. Natalie stood in front of 24 people and spoke clearly. "My name is Natalie. A year ago, my brother, sister, and I were homeless. We were freezing in a blizzard with nowhere to go. We'd been abandoned by the system, forgotten by everyone. We thought we were going to die." The room was silent, listening. Then someone stopped. A stranger who had no reason to help us. He took us in, kept us safe, and eventually became our dad. He didn't have to do that. He chose to. And that choice changed everything. She looked at Jonathan, then back at the room. "I'm telling you this because I want you to know that hope is real. Second chances exist. One person caring can change your entire life. If you're here and you're scared and you think no one cares, you're wrong. Someone cares. Maybe you haven't met them yet, but they're out there. And things can get better. I'm proof of that." Several people were crying. Lois wiped her eyes. Jonathan felt his throat tight with emotion. Kevin stepped forward next. "We brought warm coats and food because we remember being cold and hungry. We remember what it's like. So please take whatever you need. And remember that being here doesn't mean you'll always be here. Things can change." Brianna didn't speak, but she handed out blankets personally, giving each person a small drawing she'd made. Messages of hope illustrated with butterflies and sunshine. As they left the shelter, Jonathan saw the impact they'd made. Not just in the donations but in the hope they'd offered. These three children who'd survived the worst were now helping others survive. "I'm proud of you," he told them in the car. "What you did in there was incredibly brave and important." "It felt good," Natalie admitted. "Like we were completing a circle. We got help when we needed it. Now we're helping others." "That's exactly what it is. And we're going to keep doing this. Making it a tradition. They drove to the exact spot where Jonathan had found them. The abandoned gas station looked different in daylight, less ominous. They stood together, bundled in warm coats, looking at the place that had changed everything. It doesn't look scary anymore, Kevin observed. Because we're not scared anymore, Natalie replied. We were so afraid that night. Afraid of dying, afraid of what would happen, afraid of everything. But we're not afraid now. What are we now? Brianna asked softly. Safe. Happy. Well, we're home. Natalie smiled at Jonathan. We're family. They took a photo together at the spot, a family portrait against the backdrop of their darkest moment. Not to remember the pain but to honor the journey. Back at the house, Mrs. Palmer had prepared Christmas Eve dinner. The table was set beautifully, candles glowing, the smell of roasting turkey filling the house. This is home, Kevin said looking around. This is really actually home. They ate dinner together, talking and laughing. After dessert, Jonathan gave each child a gift to open early. Natalie's was a locket with photos inside. One side showed her with her mother. The other showed her with Jonathan and her siblings. So you always carry both families with you. Past and present, both precious. She put it on immediately, tears in her eyes. Kevin's gift was a signed soccer ball from his favorite professional player, along with tickets to a game. Dad, this is incredible. How did you even get this? I have connections. And you're worth the effort. Brianna's gift was a professional art set, the kind real artists used, along with a certificate for private art lessons with a local gallery instructor. You're so talented. I want to make sure you have every opportunity to develop that gift. She hugged him tightly, no words necessary. Then the children gave Jonathan their gifts. They pooled their allowance money and bought him a watch engraved on the back. To Dad, who gave us time. Love, Natalie, Kevin, and Brianna. Time was what you gave us, Natalie explained. Time to heal, time to grow, time to become a family. We wanted you to have something that reminds you that every moment with us matters. Jonathan couldn't speak. He just held them, these three incredible children who taught him everything that mattered. That night, after the children were in bed, Jonathan sat in his study looking at photos from the past year. The progression was remarkable. From terrified, hollow-eyed children to confident, joyful kids. From a man living in isolation to a father surrounded by love. His phone rang. Catherine Walsh. Merry Christmas Eve, Jonathan. I just wanted to check in. How's the family? Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm glad. You know, I've been doing family law for 30 years. I've seen hundreds of adoptions. But yours is special. You didn't just give those kids a home. You gave them hope. They gave me purpose. That's what family does. It transforms everyone involved. After the call, Jonathan checked on each child one final time. Kevin was sprawled across his bed, mouth open, completely relaxed in sleep. Brianna was curled around her new art supplies. Natalie was reading by flashlight under her covers, a normal teenage rebellion that made him smile. Lights out, Nat. Just one more chapter. That's what you said 3 chapters ago. Sleep. She grinned and turned off the light. Merry Christmas, Dad. Merry Christmas, kiddo. As he returned to his room, he passed the family photos lining the hallway. Professional portraits, candid shots, school pictures, vacation snapshots. A year of memories documented in frames. This was family. Not the one he'd been born into, but the one he'd built through choice, commitment, and love. The one he'd fought for in courtrooms and protected from threats. The one he'd nurtured through patience and presence. He thought about the man he'd been a year ago. Successful, wealthy, accomplished, and utterly alone. That man wouldn't recognize him now. That man wouldn't understand how 3 children could matter more than billion-dollar deals. That man wouldn't believe that his biggest achievement had nothing to do with business. But that man was gone. In his place was a father. Imperfect, still learning, but present and committed and absolutely in love with his children. Snow began falling outside. Soft flakes drifting past the window, beautiful instead of threatening. Jonathan watched it accumulate, feeling peaceful. A year ago, a blizzard had brought them together. Tonight, gentle snow reminded them how far they'd come. His phone chimed. A text from Natalie. I can't sleep. Too excited about tomorrow. Also, thank you for everything. For today, for this year, for choosing us. I love you, Dad. Jonathan replied. I didn't choose you. We chose each other. That's how family works. Love you too. Now sleep. A few minutes later, Kevin texted. Dad, I know you said no phones after bedtime, but I wanted to say this is the best year ever. You're the best dad ever. Okay, going to sleep now. Then Brianna sent a photo. A drawing she'd made tonight, showing 4 people standing in snow, holding hands with the caption, "Our forever family." Jonathan saved each message, each photo. Evidence that love wasn't just a feeling but a series of small moments strung together. Goodnight texts and silly jokes and honest conversations. Homework help and soccer games and art projects. Every ordinary moment adding up to an extraordinary life. He set his alarm for early morning. The children would be up at dawn, excited for Christmas. He wanted to be ready, to see their faces when they discovered the gifts under the tree. To share their joy in the simple magic of family tradition. Before sleep, Jonathan stood at his window looking at the snow-covered yard. Somewhere out there, other children were cold and scared. Other families were struggling. Other stories were waiting to begin. He'd started a foundation funded with his personal wealth, dedicated to preventing children from falling through the cracks the way Natalie, Kevin, and Brianna had. It wouldn't solve everything, but it would help. It would be their way of making sure their story led to other stories of rescue and redemption. Because that's what survivors did. They healed, then they helped others heal. They found hope, then they shared it. They built families, then they showed others what family could be. Jonathan climbed into bed, feeling the weight of a good tired. The kind that came from a full day of meaningful activity. From children who needed him and whom he needed in return. Tomorrow would bring more of the same beautiful ordinary. Presents and breakfast, laughter and maybe a few small arguments about toys. Relatives calling with Christmas wishes. A lazy afternoon watching movies. Another day in the life of a family that chose each other. He smiled in the darkness, remembering Natalie's words at the shelter. Hope is real. Second chances exist. One person caring can change your entire life. She'd been talking to others, but she could have been talking to him. Because they'd saved each other. 3 children and 1 man, all broken in different ways, all healing together. All proving that family wasn't about biology or paperwork or conventional paths. Family was about showing up. About staying through the hard parts. About choosing each other every single day and meaning it. Outside, snow continued to fall. Soft, quiet, beautiful. Inside, a father and 3 children slept, safe and warm. A family. Finally, fully, forever. And in that moment, in that house, in those hearts, everything was exactly as it should be.